Greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to track number 9, where we inspire greatness. And our main purpose and aim is to make sure that we're on the right track and stay on the right track. Today, we have a very, very special guest from Prince George's County. I could say a million and one things about her, but I want to bring her in the studio and we'll let her tell you all about herself. Please bring in Qiana Johnson, Prince George's County. Good
Hello,
morning. Good morning,
hello,
Miss Johnson. How are you?
Grand Rising. Good morning. I'm doing magnificently well. There's no complaints on my end. I'm extremely well.
Oh wow, man. I before we went live, I was just telling Miss Johnson that whenever I see her, I light up like a Christmas tree. I always smile. There's something about her energy and her genuineness. She's true to who she is. So I appreciate that. Just a little backstory. Kiana and I go way back, as they say, and some of the things that we've done work in Annapolis on different policies and everything. But the highlight that I always remember is we worked on a piece of legislation called Ban the Box. And
Mhm.
Ban the Box is a piece of legislation that would allow folks who had, a checkered past or who had some trouble in the past to be able to have that off the application. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Now, let's be clear. We believe in public safety first. So even though for many jobs, have you ever been convicted of a crime comes off of the application, in certain instances it doesn't, like when a person worked in with children, when a person worked in a senior centers, a vulnerable population, that question actually stays on the application. But it was our efforts to try to level the playing fields, because when a person comes home from incarceration, it's really difficult to find a job, to find housing, and to be sustainable. And she was just so adamant. She's like, I really don't like coming down here to Annapolis. There's something about it I really don't like. And I was like, man, I was just so happy to have her. She's been a great partner in the legislative work that I have done in Annapolis and in Baltimore. And I do want to give Councilman Mosby and Delegate Mosby a shout out, because Nick Mosby was the one person who believed in Banner Box.
Mhm.
We successfully pushed Banner Box when he was a city council person, and we pushed Banner Box when he was a delegate. One thing I can say about Nick Mosby is he gets it. So I will always give him a shout out, always will be a partner to him, and always will support him in any endeavor, because I know how much he supports our community.
Yes.
With that said, um, you are currently running for a office in Prince George's County.
Yes. Can you believe that?
I know, especially you, like, nope, no politics for me. I'm just, no, none for me.
Yes, and that's because for so long I had an internal conflict with politicians and elected officials because I didn't understand how they just couldn't get it right the first time, and I didn't understand the backroom deals and I just didn't understand how to be fake or phony. For me, when I heard the word politician, the first thing that came to my mind was that I had to be unauthentic, and so for a long time I suppressed or didn't want to have anything to do with politics. But 8 years later, I have put my name into the hat for the clerk of the circuit court race in Prince George's County. And the reason why I've done that is because I understand very fully what our courts and how important our courts are. And our clerks are really unsung heroes inside of the court system. And so making sure that our courts are secure, making sure that our courts are efficient, making sure that our courts are transparent enough so that we can get what we need out of our courts. And I don't think that a lot of people pay attention to the clerk's office. I want us to start paying attention to the clerk's office all across the state. One of our good comrades, Calvin Duncan in Louisiana, just won his race. He's a formerly incarcerated gentleman who won the race for clerk in Louisiana. So we are understanding, as folks who are impacted by the system, we are understanding just how important this clerk's position really is.
Wow, that's fantastic, fantastic. Can you give us an idea what exactly do the clerk of the court do they sign off on wills, and do they what exactly do the clerk of the court, what's their role?
Well, they don't sign off on wills. That's the Register of Wills office. So there's
Okay.
Register of Wills. I think folks get the Register of Wills and the clerk often mixed up, but they're two totally different positions. Both of them are elected, but they're very different positions. And so the clerk's office is actually one of the oldest offices in the state of Maryland. It was established in 1658, and it's been an elected position ever since. And a lot of the core responsibilities of the clerk is case management, court operations, and basic circuit court support. And so starting off with case management and understanding just how important it is for your files and for your files to be just right? For your files to be correct, for your files to be accurate, and making sure that your records are complete. If you imagine going to the court and they done mess something up, that
Mm,
changes a lot, from divorces, from marriages, for custody, things that happen with child custody, child support. Um, those are all handled within the circuit court. And for me, it's much of a personal journey, Monica, because you know my story. But, for me, as I was impacted by actually the clerk's office did made a there was a clerical error on some of my paperwork, which caused me to stay incarcerated longer, 6 months. And
mm,
for us impacted folks, we understand, an error such as a mistake on a piece of paperwork. I think for other folks, they don't understand, well, how could that really cause harm? But for me, it really caused harm because it was a mistake between um, consecutive and concurrent, right? Just one word being misconstrued or not put on a paper properly, not making the proper records, actually caused me to be separated from my children for 6 months. For 6 months, that's a long time. That's a
mm.
long time for one mistake or for one clerical error that someone happened to look over. And I think that you've heard stories, you've worked with individuals in the community that have talked about things that are similar. And so this is very personal for me. This is very personal for me to be able to go in and to connect community to the courts. There's so many ways that we can actually connect. In Prince George's County, as a prime example, over 100,000 people visit our courthouse a month. That's a lot of people.
Wow. Yes.
It's actually the most visited institution or agency in the county. So how can we reach our people? How can we start to connect to our people instead of just letting them come in and out and not really connecting with our people through the courts?
Yeah, you had mentioned that error that unfortunately caused you to have to stay in that situation for an additional 6 months. I know that we've seen many cases where people had evidence and had falsified evidence against them, where there have been so many people who have spent 20, 30, and 40 years in an instance where they were falsely accused. I think about the Central Park. I think it's the Central Park Five, and I think about how long those innocent young children, because they were children, how long those children were incarcerated for something they didn't do. But lo and behold, one of the Central Park Five, I think his name is Yusef,
Mm-hmm.
he's a formerly incarcerated person, and he ends up running for office in New York City, and he ends up winning. So I think that's a testament to our system, and I think it's a testament to people who say that, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yes. Yes.
So that's definitely one of the reasons why, we are always encouraging folks to be involved in this process, especially when it comes to the law. Because as far as I'm concerned, everything that happens in our society, it always starts with a policy, but but when it's a policy, it's a law. The freedom of slavery, like free and slaves, was actually a proclamation that
Mm-hmm.
became a law, that it is prohibited to own human beings. Imagine if that law hadn't been passed. When we think about laws, we think about the 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868, and that is a kind of piggyback on civil rights. Like sometimes we are walk around in society not realizing that the freedoms that we have and the things that we have, it all started with a fight in the court system. The Dred Scott case, where these slaves were taken from a portion of Africa where it was illegal to take them from, and they fought it. I think it was Quincy Adams, one of our previous presidents. John Quincy Adams had taken that case,
Mm-hmm.
and they had fought that case in the court system. So I think it is. I tip my hat to you for realizing and understanding that we need to be in the court system in every facet of it. I would love to see a formerly incarcerated person become a judge, because just because you made an error or a mistake, it does not mean that you cannot contribute to society. It doesn't mean that you cannot look at life in a fair and just kind of way, in an equal kind of way with clear vision. So my hats go off to you, and I want to thank Calvin Duncan in Louisiana, and say how proud I am of him for taking that step. Because a lot of people who are formerly incarcerated, it's tough for them, and they go through so much just trying to get a job. So imagine trying to run for office and trying to say, "Hey, I'm a part of this system as well, and I
Well,
have something to give."
well, let's just stay right there, Monica. And you talk about way back laws from way back in decades and eons ago, but we can fast forward it right here in the state of Maryland and talk about the fact that, you know, formerly incarcerated individuals can even run for office. I mean, because we can vote, we can run. And I tell folks
Mm,
time, and there's still a lot of people, because of the legislation and because of the body of work that we worked on together, not only just banning the box, but we're talking about making sure that folks can vote. We're talking about
mm,
16, having individuals such as myself and others to be able to get to the ballot box to say that we can now vote. And so there's a lot of us. So before we go any further, if you live in the state of Maryland, I feel obligated to say this. If you live
mm,
in the state of Maryland and you are you're outside of prison walls, whether or not you're on probation, whether or not you are on parole, you can vote, right, Monica? And I think that we need to start with that, because a lot of our people, they're like, how can she run for office? There's still a lot of people, because 2016 is not that long ago, that says, how can she run for office if she has a background? How can she? Because the state of Maryland has been very forward in that piece of legislation and policy that says that once you are completed your sentence, once you completed your sentence of incarceration, because if you're on parole or probation, that is still a form of being incarcerated. It's just not behind the walls. So you
mhm.
vote. I want to make sure that talk a little bit about that, Monica. We got to make sure, we can never leave that, because a lot of our people, they don't go down to register to vote because they think that they can't, and they can. We work very hard on that legislation. So if you can vote, you can also run for office. And so that is why I'm able to run for office, is because we worked on legislation that said that we can vote.
That's a good point. Just want to stop a minute and thank the Bimbos for being here. Delegate Sean Stinnett is in the house. Vanita Taylor from the Office of Public Defenders. Aaron Jones. We have Vivian Randall, and that's what I appreciate about our viewers and listeners. They are willing to get up at 9 a.m., have their coffee, pick up their cell phones, check us out. We're on their tablets. We're in their living room. Some of them are driving to the supermarket right now and listening to us. So I always want to give a shout out to our viewers and our listeners. Sister Cheryl Ward, all the way from California.
Yes.
Man, I appreciate that, sister. They do so much work when it comes to women and housing. So I always want to acknowledge our listeners. But you had mentioned the right to vote, and when it comes to returning citizens, and here in Baltimore, it was Doc Cheatham and Hassan Giordano. Sarah Citroni's here too. But those guys back in 2007, and our former mayor, Mayor Sheila Dixon, that it was a whole group of them that decided to start pushing the envelope when it comes to people formerly incarcerated and their right to vote. Because at one point in Baltimore and in Maryland, if you was formerly incarcerated, you could not vote at all. You could have been off of parole, probation, or whatever. But that push, I wanted to acknowledge those pioneers who started to push those efforts. And of course, Qiana, myself, Amy of ACLU, a bipartisan organization,
Oh, no.
Joanne from Common Cause, another bipartisan organization, continues to push the envelope and making sure that voting rights are fully restored
Yeah.
to formerly incarcerated people, and it could actually change an election. Some of these low voter turnout elections, just ex-offenders or formerly incarcerated people alone, if all of them had voted, they would have determined who the leadership would be, because it's thousands of people in Maryland who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. So that vote is actually pretty powerful. If folks are able to tap into that vote, then it's pretty powerful. We have like voting blocks. You have seniors. Seniors always vote, and I'm always so proud to be an election judge or just seeing our elders. It is amazing because at one time they could not vote. They could not vote. They had that. It was the 15th Amendment, the 19th Amendment, and the 29th Amendment all combined that gave African Americans the right to vote. It's a lot. They could not vote. Fannie Lou Hamer, she was out there, pushing, trying to make sure that people could vote. People used to get murdered and lynched and hung if they tried to vote. So it's important to vote, but it's so much that goes on, and it's so much that people see. Sometimes they feel like, what's the point? What's the point in voting if Supreme Court is only going to turn around and just throw all these votes out or whatever? So that's important. The leadership is important, and it's so much to understand that that the right to vote is slowly being taken away from people. Believe it or not, there's so much going on in our system, like the checks and balances. I believe you have the legislative, and you have the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. And all three of those systems. Hey, good morning. My cousin Gregory's on. Hey, cuz, good morning. But all three of those systems were supposed to be checks and balances. And when you see this system breaking, then it does discourage people. But I just want to encourage people, just like our guest today, to say, hey, it is still valuable. Go out and vote. Definitely go out and vote.
And
So you
I
go
have
ahead.
I have one more, and I just recently wrote an op-ed about this. I don't know if we can put anything in the chat, but it's called the jury duty. Jury duty is power. So we talk often about, and I think a lot of our people, particularly Black people, young people, we've done a good job over the centuries getting out the message to vote.
Mm,
What I also would challenge us is that we have to also get into the jury boxes. This is another reason why I am running for clerk. It's
mm,
because I'm a 10 percenter. I went to trial. Um, and why am I a 10 percenter? Only because 90% of individuals in the system actually take plea deals, which leaves 10% of us that go to trial. And so, as a 10 percenter who's gone to trial, understanding and also coming home and getting my degree in legal studies and a minor in public safety, and really studying and understanding jury duty is our power. We have to, as Black people, we have to, as advocates, Monica, and this is my call to you, is we have to start to talk about jury duty. So many of our people cannot really afford, because the amount in some, I think in Maryland it's $30 to $35 a day to go to jury duty. A lot of our people just can't afford that. I also sit on the board of an organization called the Jury Project that is based in Louisiana, and it's by two public defenders, Will and Portia, and they teach a lot about how to be an informed juror. And I think that as I start to bring awareness to my position and the fact that I'm running, I really want Black people to understand just how important it is for you to be an informed juror. And this is my call to say that that is a civic duty just as important as voting, and it's actually a power that you get to see immediately. I know a lot of our people are really fed up with voting. They say they vote people in and they don't do what they're supposed to do. But when you become a juror and you sit on a jury, it's just you and 11 other people, and you get to impact that case right then and right there. And so our people, our counterparts who are non-white, they understand. They look
mm-hmm,
for their jury duty notices in the mail. They're like, they get excited when it's time for them to do jury duty. And a lot of people that's watching, when you get that jury duty, be honest, be
mm,
honest, how many folks are like, oh my God, here we go again. It's time to do. No, we have to talk about it, Monica. We have to, because our people need us in the jury boxes. And so there's pieces of legislation that I will definitely be working on and working with the community around to talk about how do we start to look at, first of all, what defines a jury of our peers?
mm,
What defines our jury of our
mm,
peers? And so looking into legislation and started and to get Maryland to be at the forefront of understanding just how important our jury boxes are, and to restore the rights, because in the state of Maryland right now, although you can run for office, I nor you can sit
mm-hmm,
inside the jury box right now. So I can
mm-hmm,
run for office, you can give me your vote, I can vote, but I can't sit in a jury box. Why is that? Why are we still here?
mm,
And so those are some of the things. And this is why I'm so passionate about being clerk. There's been so many individuals. I have a lot of, friends that are council members and people who are senators and delegates. And they're like, Qiana, there's so much, so many different positions opening up. There's delegates, my delegates, and there's council. I have a free council seat, in my district. And I told them I have no desire to be a career politician. I have no desire to be in any other office besides the clerk. I'm 44 years old. After this position, after I do what I need to do as the clerk, I'm retired. I'm retired. I'm gonna travel to Florida. But I have a very strong mission and focus for our courts. And one of the things surround Black people understanding their power as jurors.
mm. Okay. Well, I when it comes to that, I actually think they looking for me now because I've been supposed to been going to do this jury duty stuff, and of course I know that I am not able to serve on the jury as well because I have a little checker pass, I have a background, and I think it is something that now that you mention it, I'm going to definitely join you in those efforts to join the folks in Louisiana to figure out about this jury project, because it does state that you are supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. And here in Baltimore, a jury of your peers don't look like a whole bunch of people from, this part of town, that part of town. It doesn't look like that because they select these juries. And then we think about all of the trials that have taken place, major trials that have taken place. I mean, our current president was just on trial in New York City. You know, we had a George Zimmerman trial.
Hmm.
We've
Hmm.
had trials that people, the ruling that came out, it was, that this is what the jury decided. And if other folks had been on there, they might have saw that case a little different. And
Yeah.
it is, it reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird, this book that I had finally read when I was a captive audience, if you will. While I was away, I was in a book club, and that was one of the books that we had read. And it was just so interesting to see Atticus and the way that this white man was fighting for this black man, and to see how all of these things were culminating in the book. So it is important that we serve on juries. And I don't know why. I actually had spoke with somebody, Qiana, and we were talking about serving on a jury, and they said, well, I don't want to, and it was correlated to voting. They said, well, I'm not registered to vote because I don't want them to pull me for jury duty. And I thought that was just so insane. They are not registered to vote. I guess because the names that appear on that for jury duty comes out of those names of registered voters.
Yes.
And that was the person's excuse, that they did not want to be registered to vote or vote because they didn't want to be on a jury duty.
But that is the mass distrust that
Hmm.
our people have from the system. They don't want people to find and to locate them, because they don't want to participate at large in anything the system has to offer. And so we have to get uncomfortable, and we have to start to get into these spaces. And that is what I'm doing. I'm extremely uncomfortable running for office. I'm extremely uncomfortable in this, but I know that it's necessary, because I know that the vision and what I bring, no one else can bring that to this position outside of someone who is impacted by it. And so that is why it's so important for me, and for me to spread this message, in addition to just running for office. And that's my dogs in the background cutting up. But in addition to me just running for this office and I want the awareness. I want
Mm,
people to understand how many people even know what the clerk's office does. How many people what they do, right? There's a lot of clerks across the country that are doing it very, very well. I've been studying them. Just down the road in Virginia, Jacqueline Smith, in Manassas, Virginia. She's an awesome clerk, right? She
mm,
connects to the community. She goes out into the community and she does things, with our community, and so and our youth. And there's just so many opportunities for me to engage with our loved ones that are going through the system. And so, this piece around jury, this piece around our distrust that our communities at large have with the system, it just trickles down from the voting box to the jury box and everything in between. They don't
mm,
want to be found because they don't want to be, they don't want nobody bothering them. They don't want to be bothered with this system. It ain't my business. And for so long, that's been taught for generation to generation. If that ain't your business, don't get involved. But we have to move away from that. We have to move away from that, Monica. And so I'm glad that you are going to join me in this fight to ensure that our people, right? And I'm trying to remember who I think it was in my article, in my op-ed, who exactly was the very brave legislators that brought this up in Maryland in 2024 or 2023. I want to say it was I'm not 100% sure. Okay, it was SB 97, and it was I just want to thank those very brave folks, legislators. So it was uh I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to look it up and see. But I know ACLU, of course, had a vote in it, right? Vote
Mhm.
ACLU brought it up, and so maybe we can bring that back up again, to say that we want this. We want for everybody to be a once you've done your time, if you've done you should be able to get in the jury box.
Yeah, Vanita Taylor of OPD, she says that that should be the next thing that the community works on, is to ensuring that everybody has an opportunity to serve on a jury, the same way asking for access to the ballot box. And
Hmm.
Tasha Woodbury says that there needs to be more messaging. There
Yeah.
needs to be more messaging about what the clerk does and what these individuals' role is. I want to thank Shanice Anderson, OPD. Brother Kareem is here. My cousin Cheryl. And my I have a childhood friend named Michelle Johnson. We were in Job Corps together, and we are still friends to this day. I'm just happy she was able to tune in, and of course Miss Joyce. Miss Joyce is from Northwest Baltimore. She's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. I love Miss Joyce. I love to hear her voice, because when we are thinking about being on the right track, getting the right information, we always have our seasoned people like Miss Joyce that we need to listen to. At one point in time, we used to listen more to our seasoned folk. If
Hmm.
they pull you up and say, "Hey, listen, you need to get yourself on the right track. Come here," and they would do that in a heartbeat, I'd be like, "Oh Lord, here they go." But I would listen out of respect, because that's what we grew up. We grew up with the notion that we need to listen to our seasoned folk. And if they pull you up and share something with you, the least you can do is say, "Yes, ma'am," and listen. So I
Hmm.
appreciate Miss Joyce. I appreciate her wisdom. The wisdom that's passed on from our seasoned people will help us get on the right track and stay on the right track. I believe the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. There
Yeah.
is nothing new under the sun. Whatever is happening has happened before. And when we look at our current situation in the court system, whether it's Supreme Court or whether it's our legislators who also make laws that are supposed to be enforced by the courts, but when we look at it, there is nothing new that has happened. If we look back 100 years ago,
Hmm.
these are the same arguments, the Monroe Doctrine that continues to come up. Monroe was a horrible, horrible president. Monroe was the president that was responsible for the Trail of Tears. Monroe was the person that was responsible for all of the deception to Native Americans. He was the president
Hmm.
that really just, man, they have some stuff called the Alien Act that they enact. So if we want to figure out what's going on currently, we really have to go back and look at what history has already shown us and taught us, because the individuals that want us all on the wrong track, they are looking at history and
Hmm.
they are seeing how can we take this law that allowed people to come to the country and become a naturalized citizen, or how can, oh, hey, Miss Sarah Matthews is on here, another one of our seasoned individuals, very bright, very, very bright, somebody that we can all learn from. But I was saying that, they are looking back at all of the laws to that we should be looking at.
Hmm.
Because if you there's a saying that goes, research is the gift of the, I can't get it, but the way that it goes is, if you do your research, you will be rewarded. That is a gift, to be able to go back and research and see what was happening in 1865 when people came out of slavery, what happened during Reconstruction, what type of laws were enacted. That's why I always go back to say that everything that happens, whether it's food stamps, whether it is benefits for your elderly mother that you're taking care of, whether it's daycare vouchers because you're a single mother working two jobs and you need some assistance, all of those things, even down to the food that we eat, the Food and Drug Administration have laws that they are governed by, and policies and legislation that was put in place. If those individuals who are part of that Food and Drug Administration allow citizens to eat foods that they know is killing them, then somebody got to go and put something in place to restrain that and keep those people, honest, and say that the law should be against all of these chemicals that you're putting in the food. So everything, as far as I'm concerned, what you eat, how much rent you pay, the how much insurance you pay for your car, how much you pay for gas, all of that to me starts at the ballot box.
Hmm.
Everything to me is legislation and policy, and it moves from legislation and policy into law. So that's why I'm extremely happy to see folks getting involved in the legal space. And I know that that's your thing. I know you absolutely love the law. You want to share with us some of your background in the law? What have you done? Have you gone to school for law? How did you come to love the law in that way? And I know
Well,
you absolutely love it. When I say the law, you just light up. All I got to do is say the law, and you smile like, "Yep, I love the law."
I,
Let's hear it.
I did not think that I would come to love the law so much. Before my incarceration, I actually was working. Business administration was my field. I thought that that's what I wanted to do, and I was a businesswoman. I wanted to do business, and when I went through my experience, I noticed how flawed the law was, and how, you know, I thought that the law worked like Law and Order, right? I thought that, it was a system that was in place to, like, two plus two equals four. I didn't think that there was um, so much variances that happened in the law. And so I started to fall in love with it. I do now have my degree in legal studies, and I may go on to law school. It's the jury's still out on that. But because once you know the law, one thing that the prosecutor said to me during my case was, ignorance to the law is no exception for it. I don't care what you know, what you didn't know, it doesn't matter. And that blew me away, Monica, because,
Mm,
what do you mean that ignorance to the law is no exception for it? If I didn't know, or what I was participating in, or I didn't know what, how could that form liability? And so that really stuck with me. And so I that is where my love for law began, right there in that
mm,
moment, because I have two Black sons. One who is on his way to South Florida to play football from Morgan, so I'm very, 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 very proud of him. But I have two young, prosperous Black sons, and I always tell them, be very mindful of who you associate with,
mm,
because ignorance to the law is no exception for it. If you ride around in a car that is registered to me, and somebody gets in there with a gun, and you
mhm,
all get pulled over, and that person puts the gun under the seat, you both now are going to be charged with that gun. You had no knowledge that that gun was in that person's backpack or in that person. But the moment you have a due diligence, is what I learned, is that you have a due diligence. Actually, what the law says is that you should basically ask everyone that gets in your car, do you have a gun? Do you have drugs? Do you have that's basically, because they said that the
mm,
law is no exception for it. And so that one quote, that one sentence lived with me and started to shape my love for the law. And because I couldn't believe it. And they don't teach law in school. They teach you mathematics, they teach you how to read, they teach you halfway of history, you know but law is not introduced to you at all. But the law says that, no, that if you're ignorant to it, there's no exception for it. So how are we teaching, how are we introducing some of the very basic concepts of law to our youth and our children that will
mm,
keep them out of trouble? How many youth, how many children, how many of our children, our young people, know that the conspiracy laws? Or how many of our young people know that, um you know what they, that guilty by association? How many of our young people know some of the very, very important laws that can get you into very, very big trouble. And
Mm,
that is where my love for it came from. And my passion will never leave, because I understand, and I've been able to help since I've been home. I've been able to help and support. We have something called participatory defense, right? And participatory defense. We have a hub here in the state of Maryland that I work with through my nonprofit. Um, and we've been able to support over 77 individuals. And we do something called time saved. When you go before a judge, the judge asks, um, how much time should we give this person and how much time has this person served? And so what we do through that movement is that we help to save time for individuals. And Monica, do you know that we saved over 4,000 years here in the state of
mm,
Maryland? 77
mm,
individuals, 4,000 years. We have 6 acquittals under our belt. And for those of you who don't know what an acquittal is when you go to trial and the jury says that you are not guilty.
mm,
Six out of the 77 of the individuals that we have fought, and some of them have been, a lot of them have been murder trials. One was attempted murder against a police officer that was just riddled with so many. Oh my goodness, it was riddled. The discovery was so flawed.
mm,
The statements from the law enforcement was so inaccurate. So I mean, just blatantly lies. Um,
mm,
we just recently had one with a young lady who was charged with murder. Again, she didn't know she was in the car with her boyfriend. He stopped at a gas station, and the people that were in the back seat got out and robbed somebody. Just got off of work. She's sitting in the front seat. She had no idea that they were going to get out and go rob somebody. And her case was acquitted just recently. This is the most recent acquittal that we have. Black woman that was acquitted of murder. Murder.
mm,
You know what I mean? Most of our cases are murder cases that were acquitted. And so what if we weren't there to support them? What if
mm,
we weren't there to teach them how to read through a discovery, how to see, the flaws and the imperfections that discoveries hold? What if we weren't there to help them do that? They probably would
mm.
be behind bars right now.
Yeah, brother Delmont, player in the chat, he had mentioned that he wholeheartedly agree with you that ignorance to the law is something that they won't excuse in a court. And I want to thank Raina for being with us today. We got Annette that's here. So I want to thank you guys. Shantae Perry is here. But I've heard a little about participatory defense. Now, I'm familiar with it, but I really would love for the listeners and the viewers to know and understand how important this is. 4,000 years that participatory right here in Maryland have saved, because again we have a judicial system, we have a system period that some say, hey, the system isn't fair, because I've seen a case where a young Caucasian guy was diagnosed with affluenza, meaning that he had a disease of being rich. He was too affluent. He made a mistake. Well, I ain't gonna say I don't know, but he killed 5 or 6 people in a vehicle. You guys can Google this, all fact. He killed vehicular manslaughter would have been a charge, but I believe he ended up being found not guilty. And they said that he had affluenza. It was something that they claimed because he
Ooh.
yeah, they claimed that he was so affluent that he didn't realize that his drinking and driving could have killed 5 people. So any and everybody that's listening to me, try to Google that case of this young guy that they claim was so rich that he was diagnosed with having affluenza or whatever it was. And it was saying that he was so affluent that he could not have known that he would kill 5 people. And he got found not guilty. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. It's in the chat now. And I'm so glad that you guys found it. That it was a defense, a controversial legal strategy claiming a wealthy defendant's privileged upbringing prevented them from understanding the consequences or wrongfulness of their actions.
And this is why and my book is getting ready to drop soon. It's called Lies, Alibis, and Plea Deals, from co-defendant to community defender. I have the proof now. I'm reading my proof, and it should be dropped on February 1, our birthday month. And so it's going to drop. And some of these things are in here talking about the prisoner's dilemma, right? Talking about prisoner's dilemma. And people are like, what is a prisoner's dilemma? What is an affluenza? What are these different things?
Hmm.
That's why the law is so intriguing to me, is because it is so, first of all, so much law to learn. If you know, the current administration right now is digging through laws from 1700s, like you said, the Alien Act and martial law and all these different things that they're using, and they're cherry picking to be able to do what they want to do in the law. And so the law is very fascinating. And so understanding it is what governs us. You know, policy governs us, but also law governs us. And I never heard of the affluenza. I wish I would have known that before I wrote my book, because I would have put that.
Yeah, yeah, that's something else. And we have the absolute best producers on this show where they're able to show us in real time exactly what I was saying. You know, because it's fact. This young person was so rich that that was his defense, and instead of him going to prison, they gave him probation.
Wow.
So, one of the things that I'm thinking, like, well, uh, how can we show our young people that it's in your best interest to know the law? Like Miss Joyce was saying, like, how do we get our children to listen? Because every day their rights are being violated. Every day somebody's trying to talk to a child without having an adult present, or some things are just the letter of the law, and we need to hold our police department and everybody else to the letter of the law. If
Maybe
we are
it's something
supposed
that
to
we
be,
legislate. Maybe it's something that we legislate. There is legislation around ensuring that young people, to change the curriculum, to introduce at a young age, to have a
hmm,
legal class. Maybe it's something that we legislate here in the state of Maryland, because our young people, if they don't have, right now, that job is left up to the parents and to the nonprofits. A lot of the parents don't know the law if they're not attorneys. So, a lot of that conversation is just not happening in households. You're not sitting at dinner saying, it's happening in my household because of what
hmm,
I've gone through. But,
hmm.
it's not happening in most households. They don't sit their kids down and say, make sure you check everybody who comes into your car. Make sure you don't hold anything for anybody. Make sure that.
Hey, I think we have some sort of technical difficulty. You there, Kiana?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead with your last statement. You were saying that those conversations are not happening in people's households to tell their children, hey, make sure you don't do this, don't do that. I remember there was a video out that came out. It was called The Talk, and the talk was African American parents telling their children, particularly black males, what not to do in case you're pulled over, because we've seen a traffic stop turn into murder a lot. It turns into the police officer killing that person. And I remember seeing, hey, Alonzo Turner Bay, I'm glad you could join us, brother.
Hey,
But
Tony.
I can remember that being like the topic. And people were saying, have you had the talk? Have you had the talk? And everybody's like, well, what is the talk? What's the talk? And the talk was that African American parents had to sit down and talk to their young children, particularly young black males, to say, if you are pulled over by a police officer, then put your hands up. Don't make no sudden moves. Do whatever he tell you. And I remember Dr. K Whitehead, that's on WEAA Morgan. I remember she was talking about how she had to have that talk with her young black male children. So yeah, I agree that those conversations should definitely happen in the home. People have to start saying, hey, but the best thing that I've heard, I mean, this right now, this my mind is going when we talk about legislation, because everybody, I know Delegate Sean Stinnett was on here, and we had Senator Coy McCray last week, gave a fantastic interview. And folks in this town know that I love legislation. I absolutely love legislation because I believe we can legislate ourselves out of anything almost. But you talked about the curriculum and legislating the curriculum, and the voters have that power. What you want your children to learn in school, you have the power to legislate that. And I think that teaching them about the law and legislating that to and make it to where that little young minds can receive it, to keep it to, from whatever grade to whatever grade. But I think that's a fantastic idea, is to legislate that in the curriculum, to teach our children about the law and how it functions, how it operates, and how it can benefit them. I
Yeah,
think
I know
that's
that there was, I know that there was some programming, and I know I saw Turner Bay said it when he was in school. I know there was like you could do like mock trials
mm,
and mock courts, but that was like after school program. That was like after school or electives, alternatives that I remember. And I'm 44, so that I graduated in 1999. And I know that there's a few programs that have like where kids can go in, but that's more for that's not in the most marginalized areas. That's not in the most marginalized areas. Those programs are for a selected few. It's not for some of the for us. I live in District 7 and other districts with the schools that may not be the more high performing schools. I don't think they have those type of even alternatives, or even
mm,
if you wanted to be a part of that mock trial or those programs. I don't think that is made widely available. Those are the type of things as clerk that I want to be able to bring programming for the youth to be able to come in, and not just the affluent youth, not just the youth that are at the private schools or at the Elizabeth Setons and the Mathers, but the kids that are at the public schools too, to be able
mm,
to have them come in and to see the courts and to understand the courts. Navigating the courts is one thing, but also understanding exactly what our courts does and how you are a part of it. And some of those basic laws, conspiracy laws and laws around, understanding that, ignorance is no exception to the law. You have to know a certain level of law to get through this world.
yeah, brother. What Robert Winslow said, the talk is needed. He mentioned in the chat, he mentioned that the talk is definitely needed to our youth and to our young people. And Delegate Sean Stinnett is actually still in the room. So I'm glad he stayed with us. And maybe it's something that Delegate Stinnett would consider taking up as a legislative effort, because our children see the law as something that's bad. And it shouldn't always be my father got arrested, he going to court. My mother got arrested, she going to court. Look at how the law can also work for you,
Mm-hmm.
because in low income communities, these people are suffering from poor housing, and you can go to a place like legal aid. Legal aid will help you to say, hey, we got dripping water coming from here, our pipes keep busting, we got feces in our basement, all of this is happening, and my landlord won't fix it. Or you have a person who has lived in a house, and somebody buys the house from them and then come and put that person out. And they had no idea. They've been renting, paying their rent, paying their rent. And then they end up getting put out. So the law should be there to actually work for us and our children. So we have to teach them that, the law is not always there to lock us up, send us to court, and then send us to prison. We can also teach them that the law is here to benefit us. So how about if we just utilize it? When I have a deadbeat landlord, then I need to be empowered to be able to take that landlord to court, to small claims court, and to be able to present my case. I think that's a fantastic idea to legislate that be a part of the curriculum. Because again, like I said, it was right here in Baltimore. The guy was from Baltimore, the first African American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
and working on that case, Brown versus the Board of Education. If it were not for the law, if it was not for Thurgood Marshall, we wouldn't be able to have some of the rights that we have again. We would be in segregated schools. We wouldn't even be able to have the access that we have if it wasn't for the law. So we have to continue. And I know our brother, he tuned in, Alonzo Turner Bay. He a beast with that law. He would be an absolutely wonderful,
Yes.
a wonderful instructor. So we once we legislate that, we'll keep that brother in mind, keep you in mind. My girl Tasha Woodbury is really good. She actually went to school for law at the University of Baltimore. She's here. I know Miss Gwen Levi, she's here. She liked the law. So we have the things, the pieces that we need. I always feel like we have the people and the stuff that we need. We just got to get on the right track. All of us got to be on the right track to say, this is what we are going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. Let's stay on this track. So it's a excellent idea. And thank you for everybody that's continued to tune in and that's enjoying this conversation. And of course, if you have any questions or any concerns, you can always write us at info@marylandjusticeproject.org. If you want to add to this conversation, if you have any ideas, if you want to participate in the possibility of having this legislation passed and move forward. That's a thought, because I want us to come together on these beautiful Saturday mornings. And yes, it's raining, it's cold, but it's beautiful because we're all here together. And you know, I always say it's all out of love, because I love us, I love what we do, and I love the possibilities that God give us every day we wake up. Every day we wake up, it's a strong possibility that we might hit the number. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if we're gonna hit
Yeah.
the bad number, but I do know that every day that we wake up and move forward collectively on the same page, regardless of our differences, we have to come together, get on the right track, and think about what the people who came before us did.
Hmm.
Think about how we had allies. Those Quakers I had talked about up and down the Susquehanna River and everything, they helped on that Underground Railroad. And I know that that's Harriet's wildest dreams. I know sister is involved, and she know a lot about that part of Maryland where Harriet Tubman freed the slaves. But it was white people too. It was white people who participated and that made sure that they had the money, the coats to keep them warm, and probably gave Harriet that pistol she had. You know, that pistol.
Yeah.
And anybody that wanted to change their mind, yeah, you had two choices. You can either see the barrel of the gun or you can keep it moving. And it was probably one of the white folks that gave her that pistol. But nonetheless, it's going to take all of us collectively to, move ourselves forward and do what we need to do. And I'm always grateful to have wonderful guests like Qiana, and that you guys get up on Saturday mornings and join us. You had your coffee, you looking at your cell phone. Look at Monica, look at Qiana. You in your cars listening to us. I'm just like I'm just thrilled. Our God is some kind of wonderful, some kind of wonderful. Um, Before we go, we got about 3 more minutes. What are some of your ideas for this new role? Because it's going to, man, Prince George's County is going to be so fortunate to elect you, a formerly incarcerated woman, as the clerk of the court. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait until you win, and then you can come back on the show, man. But what are some of the things you think that you could possibly change and move that forward? Do something a little bit different than what they're doing now.
Well, before we even start to change things, we need to make sure that folks are aware. And the main thing that I want to do is to make sure that our office and that our clerk's office is one that is very transparent, is one that takes care of our clerks. I've been in that office several times, and the way the clerks are respond to the community is not the best, because I believe that they're not getting treated as the best. If every clerk in the state of Maryland decided not to go to work on Monday morning. Think about that. If every clerk in the state of Maryland decided to go on strike, what would our courts, how would our judges, how would our prosecutors, how would they be able to function? And I don't think that anybody has sat long enough to think about that. And so I am vowing to make sure that our clerks get the respect and the treatment that they need to be able to be the front lines of our community and of our courts, and also to be able to connect and to bring those community programs into the court, so that your first time in the court isn't when you have the worst day of your life. Most people go into the courthouse when it's something that they don't want to deal with, unless they're getting married. But otherwise than that, if they're not getting married, usually there's something else happening that is their life is not the best, or it's something worst day of their life probably. If it's a traffic ticket, if it's a criminal case, if it's a child custody case where they're trying to get custody of their children, it's usually not something that's positive. And so I want to be able to start to have individuals coming into the courts when they're not mandated to do so, and that they feel safe and secure in navigating those courts and making sure that it's not a scary place anymore for our community.
Mm. Well, thank you again, Ms. Joyce. Thank you for joining us, Robert Winslow, Delegate Shonston. That stayed till the end. You know that brother must be very invested. I appreciate you because they are really, really busy in Annapolis, and to have Delegates to net stay for this period of time, I'm really grateful for that. Delmont Player, my girl Irena Pretty. I'm just so happy. And as we close out, I want to thank you, Miss Johnson, for being here. And I just want to say to everybody that's listening, I love you. You already know. I love us. And oh my goodness, Miss Fran is here. That's my friend. I love Fran so much, man. Miss Francesca Sparrow. That's my home girl. But anyway, I think the love covers a multitude of things. And I think that God will help us all get back on the right track. We are in some trying times. Oh God, these times are very difficult. But we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. And we're going to continue to look for solutions to help us all get back on the right track. And thank you, Trina Selden, for joining us, man. Another powerful sister. Everybody have a wonderful day. And this is always my opportunity to hug you all at one time. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day, guys. See you next Saturday. Tune in. Tell a friend. Thank you. And stay on the right track.
We inspire greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for